I'm Mac, Rob's wife.
I'm Tui, Rob's sex worker.
Oh my God. It's a business run by women for women. How can we service you?
Well, I think it's such a crazy story that you'd wonder how anyone came up with it if it wasn't true. It is one of those, like, it's so wild it has to be true. So Mac is, I guess, approaching middle-aged lady, a very well-educated woman, Berkeley, Columbia University. Probably really imagined that by this age of life, her life would look a lot more, successful and bedazzled. And she finds herself in remote regional New Zealand, having married a Kiwi man. And when they realize that their child has quite profound disabilities, they both recognize that what's available in America will be very different to back in New Zealand, where we have universal health care. In Australia and New Zealand, in our show, she discovers that her husband is seeing sex workers. And instead of getting mad, she gets an idea. And on realizing that sex work is legal and decriminalized in New Zealand, unlike America, she thinks, maybe I could run a really good version of this, like an ethical brothel, and be an ethical 21st century madam. And that will be a way for her to kind of provide for her family, take care of her sons, and do something, get her out of the house, I guess. Well, it's funny because I think I've been offered at least 5 madams or sex workers in my life. And I would say that every other sex worker / madam I've been offered has very much been through the male gaze. And it's either the kind of dark, dirty, kind of exploitation, trafficking mode, or it's kind of sexy, titillation, spicy, in control madam, but you kind of feel very much when you're reading it that the way sex is talked about and sex is portrayed is very much through a male gaze. So when this came along, it was pitched as a comedy or a dramedy, it just really clicked with me, because I think when girls talk about sex, when men aren't around, we are usually laughing. And that is not how sex or sex work is normally talked about. So I feel like all the other stories are kind of really serving a male view. And I just think the take on this, the way that women make this transaction, and more importantly, why they make the transaction, not because necessarily they're desperate or they're exploited or, they're being pimped out or used or abused. They're just making really often very sensible economic decisions that is not really different to the decisions I make. It might be a line in Antonia's book, actually, where she said, we don't sell sex, we treat loneliness. And I think that really resonated for me, whether or not that's, clients who might have physical or intellectual disabilities that would find it very difficult in real life to actually have that experience of human touch and tenderness and release and connection. And other people for, I spoke to one sex worker, and her top 3 clients were all quite older gentlemen who were widows, and they didn't really think they'd ever meet anyone or how to do it, but they just so crave to be held and to have someone to look into their eyes and say, you're lovely, So I was surprised at how often I heard that experience where they're like, most of my clients, it's not really about sex. Well, yeah, I think she was looking for a hustle, and she'd had quite a few other hustles that hadn't really worked out. You know, she'd done the organic farm kind of hustle, and I guess when you're living in remote rural anywhere, you know, your options are pretty small. But I think kind of being a woman of her generation, calling herself a feminist, and then realizing that despite sex work being legal and decriminalized, she still thought the model was not really serving women in the way that it could, particularly around, you know, the kind of parade lineup, you know, which she thought is really degrading, or you've got to come in from these hours to these hours and you might get picked type thing. Whereas hers was you work when you want, who you want. So if a client, for whatever reason, is like giving them major warning flags or ick, or they're their father's friend, you know, they're like, no, I won't be doing that. So just that, I think, really giving women the control. Yeah. I think it is my first experience, actually, of working with an intimacy coordinator, which I would have loved to have on, 6 Feet Under, particularly, which was, you know, a cutting edge moment of television where the boundaries were being pushed and there was no language about how to protect oneself, about what one was comfortable doing. So yeah, we had a very renowned New Zealand actress, Jennifer Ward-Leyland, and you know, she's practically a dame, and she's very practical, and she'd turn up with her suitcase with all the bits in, like, would you like a hard bit? Would you like this soft bit? Would you like these pasties, or would you prefer a bandana? She had the whole kind of, was like, she'd open it up, but it was just like all the tricks were in there. And it was really, really, she's very Scottish, and she kind of was like, any no-go areas, is there anywhere on your body you don't like to be touched? And, you know, one of the gentlemen was like, well, I'm a bit sensitive about this bit, almost like, can I say that? And she's like, great, okay, so we won't be doing that. And she was just very, very, very straightforward. And it was like, she treated it like a stunt coordination. And I think one of the interesting takeaways, because all the girls actually we're also comfortable with each other, and we're also comfortable with production, but the most vulnerable people actually were the men that might come in for one episode, and they were all so nervous. Working with Jennifer just kind of put them at ease. It's definitely amazing to have an intimacy coordinator, and it's kind of extraordinary that the younger actresses that, you know, I love that the really young actresses on the show now go, oh, that's what it should be like. So when it's not like that, they can go, I've actually experienced this before and it was a lot safer. So hopefully that set the standard. I hope audiences will laugh because it's really funny, the show generally. But I hope the kind of takeaway is that to kind of not judge any woman who is making whatever economic decision she's making for herself to be self-reliant or support a family or contribute to other family members, particularly in this moment that we're living. I think everybody's coping with cost of living and rent and food. Everything is so expensive. I think if we as a society don't respect sex workers, I think they're the canary in the coal mine of not respecting women, because we're saying, oh, I respect women, but not these women because they're doing that. Whereas I kind of come from all women should be respected, and any woman that makes the decision to work in sex work, to be self-reliant or independent, not being on welfare or supporting their family or supporting their aged parent, whatever reason, or to put themselves through university, I think they should get a lot more respect. It's hard work. Some might say it's highly paid, others might say not paid enough. And for men, I think it's, I think men will be kind of shocked because they'll be like, do women really talk about sex like that when we're not around? And I think we'll go, oh, no, we would never talk about men or sex like that. So I think that will be kind of shocking a little bit.